there's a trade-off that I think everybody has to understand, and that's related to the second. With the large wealth gaps and large not enough money in lots of places, the Federal Reserve and the Treasury were put into a position of needing to get checks out. And there's also this left-right conflict issue having to do with the wealth gap. And that means that you have fiscal policies that are now requiring lots of spending. And so the question is really, are the consequences of not doing that better or worse than the consequences of doing that? Now, when we look from an investor's point of view or an individual's point of view, we have to remember that you can't raise living standards by just creating money and credit, particularly if you don't raise productivity more than that. And that means that those asset prices are going up. So we're in the phase of the cycle, very classic, that the financial asset prices have gone up because you've given them more money, that demand is going up, and now we're having inflation of those assets. So if a lot of that buying power is going to be pulled back, particularly as we go into the next year. But there's still going to be a lot, and there's still going to be a high level of inflation of those types of assets. So the trade-off is always the question.
Right. Okay, so quickly, where do you come out on that trade-off? Is it a binary yes or no?
It's a reflection of the state of where we are in the cycle, that we have borrowed. It's all the problems that we've gotten ourselves into by acquiring too much debt and spending more than we're earning rather than being more productive, and also not distributing the opportunities and the incomes in a way that it's a broad-based prosperity. So on the one hand, you have a prosperity that this bottom 60% of the population isn't participating in very much. And at the same time, you have, so it's creating that polarity. And at the same time, you have the financial markets. So those are trade-offs that, different people, the only thing I care about is whether we're productive, whether we increase the size of the pie through productivity and then divide it well so that you create something closer to equal opportunity that produces greater political stability and also draws on the population going wide. And the reason I say that is because I've studied these empires, these dynasties, going back since the last 500 years. And you see the same thing happening over and over again. When there's a financial problem, when the granaries are empty and the coffers are empty, they print money. And when they print money and the coffers are empty, it devalues money. And with that, when you have a large gap of people at each other's throats, then you create a risk of an internal conflict, a risk of some kind of civil war. And that is what I think is we're at risk of.